This is Valley News Live at 10.
This morning I woke up early. I didn't want to. I wanted to go back to sleep. I wanted to hope that this all was a nightmare.
And tonight, just one day after living through every parent's worst nightmare, folks in Uvalde, Texas came together for a vigil to remember the 19 students and 2 adults killed in yesterday's school shooting there.
The shooting has left an impact on people across the world. There was another vigil held today in San Fernando and other cities across Texas, even as far away as India, where a group of students there prayed and paid their respects.
Tonight, we're also learning more about the many victims of this tragedy. We can start putting the faces, the young faces and names to the numbers in the death toll. We'll hear from some of the family members of them just a little bit later in this newscast.
But first, closer to home in Cooperstown schools, school employees and law enforcement agencies spent this evening in active shooter training. Valley News Team's Nishay Taylor gives us an inside look at how local agencies are preparing for the worst.
Yeah. The sound of gunfire rippling through the halls of Cooperstown High School is a sound that no one wants to hear. Fortunately, this was just a scenario being run by local law enforcement during active shooter training.
It's very important that these first responders, these schools, undergo this training, this level of activity, so that they are prepared.
When you're in the moment, you don't even know how you're going to act yourself, so your mind reverts back to its training. That is why this is so important.
In this training scenario, a gunman fires a weapon before law enforcement enters to de-escalate the situation.
This doesn't discriminate. It can happen anywhere, and that's what we all need to understand.
The exercise was meant to seem as real as possible, including with real-life victims.
I would be really, really scared.
But its core goal was to build communication between agencies in case a real active shooter situation happens.
We're not all used to really working with each other that much, so that'll be a huge learning curve.
Following the school shooting in Texas, training exercise leader Derek Hansen says there's no time better to learn.
Nowadays, with as many shootings as occur throughout this country, it's a weekly occurrence, sometimes multiple times a week. When would a good time be?
And the Griggs County Sheriff says she hopes their initiative is reassuring to the community.
It can happen, and that we are preparing our best for if and when it does happen.
In Cooperstown, Nishay Taylor, Valley News Live.
It's been 5 years since the Griggs County Sheriff's Office and other local agencies have participated in active shooter training.
The Texas massacre has prompted a lot of tough questions and conversations for families. Many parents wondering, what do you tell your kids about all this, if anything at all?
Just be curious with them about what do you already know and what are some questions you might have.
Experts also say it's important to make sure the talks that you're having are age appropriate and also neutral and fact-based to help your student understand and process the information.
Let's get to Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson now with a quick look at the forecast. Hutch.
Stacy, thanks so much. We had a gorgeous setting sun. This view provided by our friends at Home of Economy in Devil's Lake. The clouds cleared and just stunning colors tonight as we enjoyed warmer temperatures out to the west today, and some signs of spring across the valley. Jackie finding this sign tucked away in the bushes. Thanks for all your gorgeous photos over the last several days. Here is a look at a quiet night in the FM area. Here's what you can plan for. The radar has been a little on the active side out to the east, but notice this. The clouds that were with us all day long holding temperatures at bay have cleared out to the east, and we're kind of in between weather hiccups. There's another one north of Minot. By morning, some of that activity will be shifting in our general direction. More on that in your hour-by-hour forecast. And temperatures still holding near 50 for many east and mid-50s to the west. I expect our quiet weather to continue. We may see some sprinkles along the international border, but in Fargo, temperatures will get chilly. We're dipping down into the low 40s overnight, so be prepared for that. Coming up, though, we have some heat to talk about. Downright spring-like weather, but that's going to come with a few hitches in the giddy up. Some thunderstorms, some could be strong. I'll have hour-by-hour details and a look ahead here in just a few minutes.
Looks like summer. Thanks, Hutch.
New developments tonight out of Grand Forks as a death investigation continues. A man has been arrested for tampering with evidence. Kendi Jallow is expected to be in court tomorrow. Grand Forks police discovered a dead body yesterday after responding to a call of an unresponsive man in the 1200 block of North 39th Street. The victim's name still hasn't been released, but police say it appears the death was not the result of a medical problem or natural causes. We're learning new information after an assistant basketball coach in Grafton was charged with felony theft. Court documents say Brent Baldwin's felony charge stems from the theft of a breath alcohol sensor worth $1,500. The documents say Baldwin was brought to corrections by Highway Patrol, suspected of DUI. The documents say camera footage shows Baldwin in the lobby leaving the law enforcement center with that sensor wrapped in paperwork, later falling out. The documents say he first denied the theft, then later told police he took the sensor because he couldn't find an envelope of money that he'd brought in to pay bond, where he says $700 of the $1,200 he'd brought in was missing.
A group called The American Experiment presented an argument against critical race theory at the Rustad Center in West Fargo today. Critical race theory is an academic concept, the core belief that race is a social construct and that it impacts nearly everything. Protesters who support the teaching were there too.
As a person who myself would be a minority, as a transgender person, as someone who's has friends and stuff who are Indigenous, just hearing that our histories can't be taught and they're afraid of us having any kind of equitable future is frustrating.
Inside presenters said they don't think CRT is good for North Dakota.
Their identity and who they are as individuals isn't diminished or undermined by a academic framework that tells them to view themselves through a very limiting race-based lens.
Critical race theory generally isn't taught until high school or college. The American Experience spoke in Grand Forks yesterday. Organizers said they'll be back in June to present to Central and Western North Dakota as well.
New for you tonight, schools are full, and that's a problem many districts across the region have dealt with in recent years. And now Hawley Public Schools is looking to fix their overcrowding.
Valley News Team's Aaron Walling brings us the story, including how community members are getting involved.
Make sure we're meeting the needs of our students, not only short term, but long term as well.
The school district in Hawley is potentially growing. Wednesday, HPS spoke with community members about why a new building is needed in town.
Just trust in the process. We're going to make sure that all community has input, whether you have kids in the district or not, and we'll be fiscally responsible to our taxpayers as well.
They say the elementary school is at full capacity. The high school is nearly there, while the preschool is housed in a former church. And next year's kindergarten class is their biggest one yet.
A new building would be great. You know, we have got really good facilities now. Our problem is we're just outgrowing them.
Spearheading the consultation of this project is Ingenza, out of Plymouth. While the Fargo area is used to growth, organizers say the growth in Hawley goes against the trends of other rural school districts in Minnesota.
You know, I've seen a lot of communities in the area around build these new schools, and they're phenomenal. And to have my kids go to school like that would be just a great feeling.
In Hawley, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
Hawley Public Schools says this year they had over 1,015 students enrolled, which is a record for them.